All right, guys, this is being recorded in the evening for Tuesday. I have a busy morning, so if there is anything important going on, I'll send out a note or a quick video. But let's take a look at what went on with the market today. SPY, really nice day, and really nice day across the board in terms of not only all of the indexes, but a bunch of different sectors starting off the week really strong. And because of that, I was willing to take one position today, which I talked about in the report this morning that I was looking to do today. So let's take a look at SPY. We'll get to our trades, and then the focus of the stuff. I added a lot of new things because I just like the way the market acted today. So SPY here, remounting the 9 really strong after a few shaky days here and some concerns that we were going to pull back in, especially after the Fed. Now, I've talked about this, that it often takes a few days for the actual direction to play out, and that initial direction can be a fake out, and it often is. And we're seeing that potentially here, where initial reaction to the Fed was down, but after a few days that reverses itself, and then we get the real trend. Now, we don't have a trend yet, but this was a very strong bounce. And then if we get back up over 245 into new highs, I think that could be the trigger for our next move here. So SPY very strong today, almost 1% at 0.8%. IWM pretty good as well, lagging a little bit, 0.74%, but still very strong, and now up over its 9. And the Qs here, while not at its all-time high like SPY was a bigger percentage gain at 1.67%. So it's got a little more work to do here to be all clear, but big tech looked very strong today, and the Qs are reflecting that. And when big tech is strong, usually semiconductors are strong, and semiconductors were strong today. And we took NVIDIA today out of semiconductors more based on the pattern itself and the stock itself than the sector. I do have 2 semiconductor stocks right now, which wasn't the plan, and I'm not necessarily looking at this chart and saying I want 2 semiconductors. I just happen to like both of those over some of the other potential possibilities today. But semiconductors very strong, China very strong, and I talked about earlier this morning that potentially we'll start building a list here, especially if we get a break of the high. So we're watching China now very closely. Before it was Russia and Brazil, now it's China. And then IBB, huge move today, getting close to highs here. And if we look at XBI, which is more of the mid-cap biotechs, breaking this entire range here, which is why LABU was so strong. We've been watching this really closely, and we talked about a break of this high, but this break was so strong that I didn't want to chase. So if it pulls back in, we could potentially get an entry, but too difficult to enter at this point. And then our financials play, XLF on fire here after the 2-day pullback post-Fed, looking very strong, and we looks like we could potentially hit our targets here, and actually our FAS position is already kind of at target level. And then home builders also very strong after a 2-day pullback, and we'll start adding those home builders again to our focus list. Now let's go over today's entry. NVIDIA had that really big reaction to that down day in the market, but since then is looking pretty strong. And if we could just erase that one day and this big ugly candle, overall the volume pattern is fantastic and above the averages, especially on the green days, and still riding this trend, now consolidated for a bit and is now back up over the 9. So I like this one a lot. The entry was around 156.93, I think it was. I'm using about a 4-point stop, basically today's intraday action. I'd like to go a little wider, but it just wouldn't give me good risk reward, so I couldn't do that. And then we'll go for a target of anywhere between 6 and 10 points. I'll watch price action. 6 points would give me 1.5 to 1. 8 points would give me 2 to 1. Anything above that would be fantastic. But that's the idea behind NVIDIA here. X has been a little frustrating here, but back up at our entry level. And we still have, remember, we're allowing for a double bottom here, but hopefully we can get the continuation here. FAS on fire. Our entry was down here around, I think it was the upper 46s or lower 47s. We're up to 49.28, and we're looking for the move up to above 50 on FAS. That's the financials triple leverage ETF, and our recent entry in AOI. Up today, 0.5% and was up much stronger earlier, and then kind of being thwarted by the 9. And sometimes, anytime you enter below the 9, you have to know that it could take a little to break that level. So we're going to watch, see how this reacts. Hopefully we get a break. If it does break the 9, then I'll feel very confident that we can hit the target up here at the top of the range, which would end up being a really big win here for AAOI. So that's current positions here. Now let's go over the focus list. Let me start with the new additions. I'm adding one China stock, NTES, which is kind of in the same space as Google and those guys with internet content. So we've got NTES. We could even put in something like Baidu, but it's been beaten down so much and hasn't reacted well. Let me add the other China stock, which is already on our list, which is BABA, equivalent to, we'll say, Amazon here as big tech. And bouncing, we were talking about today, the bounce at the 9 is what we would look for, and we got that today. The reason I didn't take it is I just wanted to take one position today, and I liked NVIDIA better. But I was watching NVIDIA and BABA very closely. The reason I went with NVIDIA was solely because it's more volatile, so if it does ramp up, I can make more off that. But both setups are fantastic, and I really like BABA here. So if you're looking something, you want to add a position, you could potentially add BABA here on the break of the 9. RRGB, new addition to the focus list here, very low float, bouncing off the 50. Now I want to see it get up over the 9. If it does, there's a potential entry there. SEDG, Solars were very strong today. You can see some of the leading sectors today: semiconductors, electronics, aluminum, biotech, and we've got solars in here, resorts and casinos, which we've been watching. But SEDG, very strong here. Race is back on our list. Taking it off when it started to get extended and pulling back, but now has remounted the 9. So a lot of these things that had pulled back hard are remounting key levels now. And we love to see that as continuation plays in trends. So IPO Race looking very strong. IPO Twilio, after getting beaten down here on the big gap down, not only back within the gap range, but over the 50 moving average and very strong here. I'd like to see a little bit of a pullback, but a lot of room to go to get to that top of the range. So that one's attractive there. Now the casino stocks, CZR, new addition. You can see here, fantastic move, broke out, consolidating back up over the 9 casinos. And this one has a lot of short interest, so we could see a short squeeze. Win, also very strong, breaking out to highs. This is one I was also considering when I went into NVIDIA. It was basically Win, BABA, NVIDIA, or Facebook. And I went with NVIDIA. And speaking of Facebook, let's go over the FANGs. Facebook, you can see here, remounting the 9, showing relative strength to some of the other FANG and big tech stocks, and looking pretty good here. So there's another one you could potentially enter. Netflix, lagging a little bit, but if it clears a 9 in the 50-day, I think there's there is a lot of room just to get to the top of the range. So I'd like that one. Amazon keeps testing this 1,000 level and is having a tough time breaking through, even with the big news about Whole Foods. But eventually I think it is going to break clearly, and once it does that, we can get in. And then Google as well, pulled back hard, but putting in a nice pattern. 9. TTD is a new addition here. Trade desk software, so a space that we're all kind of into here, but remounting the 9, and maybe this sets it up for a breakout here. Volume pattern still looks really good, and it's got some short interest, and then of course LABU for biotech, but it's got to digest some of these gains. So if it can pull back to the high here around 54, I'd potentially look for an entry if it can hold that level. And I think that is it for new additions to the focus list. All the rest of them, like the Teslas, the Play, UA, SQ, they're all still there, and we've got some new additions here. So a lot to potentially trade if the markets start to show some more strength, continuing off today's move. So I've got 4 positions now. At this point, if the market continues to show strength, I wouldn't be opposed to continuing to slowly add positions here and there. So that's it for the trade reports coming in the evening today. If anything changes in the morning, there's something significant we need to talk about, like a big gap down or gap up, or something within one of our positions here, I'll put out a quick video. Otherwise, this is a trade report for Tuesday.